Well, welcome back, everyone, to the second rendition of our IST webinar series. Again, my name is Justin Zielinski. I'm an educational consultant here at IST, and I'm also joined again by JJ Burkhart, who's our service manager. And today we're going to be piggybacking a little bit off of our previous webinar pertaining to FANUC ROBOGUIDE Simulation Software. I would encourage anybody who may be first-time listeners, or maybe you're not very familiar with ROBOGUIDE software or who we are at IST, feel free to take a look at the previous recording that we did, as we did dive into those things. So that should hopefully be able to answer any questions you have, or at least help you get your feet wet. You'll see at the end of this presentation, we do have our contact information up. So if you need to drop us a note, have us send that link over to you, feel free. We'd be more than happy to do so. But as I mentioned, we're going to continue to kind of peel back the onion that is FANUC ROBOGUIDE. And we're going to do such by going over another pretty vital tool that FANUC has made available, and that is introducing an actual FANUC Teach Pendant to the conversation. So when we talk about our students using ROBOGUIDE software, being able to actually integrate a real FANUC Teach Pendant that would be found on any FANUC industry robot, it's like I said, it's another vital tool that's been made available to further enhance your students' experience. And really, you can take a look at, having students get the feel for what an actual FANUC Teach Pendant is like, as opposed to if you revisit in our first webinar when JJ was going over, pulling up an actual mirrored image of what an actual FANUC Teach Pendant looks like. I have one here in my hands that you can see. Is when you're doing it solely on a PC, albeit students can see what this actually looks like and be able to see where the keys are at, see the layout. That's a great first step, but what's really missing with that is actually having them get hands-on experience with holding the Teach Pendant. Everything from being able to feel, especially when you have to hit multiple buttons at one point, it's excruciating for them to go through that without ever having actually held one. Sometimes they're going to have to, it starts with getting their feet wet, but at the same time, they need to be able to not feel like this is such a foreign object when they first get up to a robot. So another thing that's important to point out is, I don't know if you've ever held a FANUC Teach Pendant before, you'll notice on the back of it is something called the dead man switch. And that's these two switches right here. You hear me clicking. It's just another safety mechanism put in place for anybody who's operating a FANUC robot. But there's actually 3 clicks when you squeeze this dead man switch. And students have to learn that they actually have to hold that in the middle. And it's something that they just, again, it's familiarity. They have to make sure that they understand that that's the process. That safety mechanism that's in place will actually allow for, if it's to be compressed fully, the robot will actually get a message that says, okay, something might not be right here. We're going to stop. Or if it's completely depressed, it sends that very signal. Again, holding it right in the middle is where students have to get acclimated to understanding that's where they have to be holding it in order to operate a FANUC robot. So, again, going over just some of the perks of actually having this thing in their hands and taking away that foreign feel when they actually get up to a robot for the first time. So I think really in particular, aside from getting that hands-on experience with an actual Teach Pendant, there's really 2 scenarios that I think make this extremely important. And that is, number one, even in your very own classroom or lab setting, ideally we would love to have a robot for every student, but especially when we look at having a larger class size of some sort, that's not always a feasible option. And you sometimes run into the problem where you have 3-4 students around a particular robot, but you have other students who are kind of sitting at their desk, twiddling their thumbs. They're anticipating their turn to get on the robot, but they might not really have something to do in the immediate. And I think that's where having additional Teach Pendants in your lab or your classroom plays to a big benefit, because that allows them to still be getting that familiarity. They're still actually holding a real Teach Pendant, the very same Teach Pendant that will program and control any FANUC robot. And it allows them to sit there and create their program still in ROBOGUIDE, which they will then USB out and plug into the robot when they get up and have their turn. Another scenario that I think I'd be remiss not to point out would be, just looking at the current times that we're in. Clearly, there still very much exists a fear and a paranoia of, well, if there's more spikes in the coronavirus in our area, are we going to get sent home? Are we going to be switched to hybrid, only get 1 or 2 days in the lab? or maybe you may very well right now be fully at home. And that definitely creates a little bit of anxiety, especially from an instructor who's trying to teach something that's hands-on related. How do I do that if I can't see my students? So what we're seeing a lot of schools start to do is establish a checkout procedure where they're actually sending these Teach Pendants home with students so that they can continue their FANUC learning. That's also in partnership with the fact that FANUC, any students who go through a FANUC CERT program also are going to be assigned about 20 to 30 hours of self-paced e-learning modules that they complete as well. So between going through those and being able to actually still navigate RoboGuide, create their programs while actually getting that feel, so when the day does return for them to get back to school, get into the lab, and be able to get on a robot, they should very well still be versed and not have that foreign feel. If you've ever had the pleasure of attending, for example, a FANUC handling tool operation and programming course, one of the first things an instructor will tell you is when you get home, it's imperative that you pick one of these Teach Pendants up, you get back on a robot, you get in RoboGuide with the Teach Pendant connected, because it's like anything, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And I can personally attest to that, having been to the class myself. I returned home. I went about 3 weeks without getting on one, and by golly, when I picked up that Teach Pendant, I had to think a little bit, and it's because I wasn't using it. I did exactly what they said not to do. I got home and I didn't use it. So that's another way that I think we can help get around this issue of the uncertainty if we're going to go back home. If we do get sent back home, that we have that option available. So with that, I think we'll turn it over to JJ, get into our demonstration here today. I think, JJ, it would be pretty neat if we could show maybe how do we even hook up this Teach Pendant and have that be accessible for our students to plug in and be able to use, get that hands-on experience we talk about with our RoboGuide on our PCs. Maybe we can go through adjusting some refresh rates as well as mirroring the Teach Pendant. And then when we're done with that, I think it'd be pretty neat as well if we could show how could we maybe take a program that's been created, put it on a USB drive that we can actually take out and plug into any FANUC controller and allow that program to run on a FANUC robot. So again, something that if students have to do, whether it's off campus or if they're doing it while they're in the middle of the lab, anticipating their turn on a robot, they can be creating these programs and then transfer it over and let's watch it run on the robot.
We can do that, Justin. Let's get started and we'll cover those topics today. So I'm going to go out here. First thing I'm going to do is bring up our video here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here on our Teach Pendant. That way we can kind of talk about the Teach Pendant a little bit more. So let's do that. All right, so here's the Teach Pendant. All right, it is just connected currently. There's no cable going to it. So I want to first just kind of talk about getting this guy connected to your PC. It's just actually pretty simple. And it does come with a conversion cable, and that conversion cable has a couple ends. Here's the end for the Teach Pendant, and then here's the end that has power and communication with your computer. So first, let's plug in our Teach Pendant. It does go in a certain way. I know it's tough to see on here, but if we just kind of put this on and start twisting a little bit, it'll kind of fall into place, and then you can just glue it down onto the Teach Pendant. On there. All right. And then next, you'll notice here's your power cable. There is a power brick that is plugged into our wall right now. We're going to get it plugged in. It's just a simple plug and twist. And then here is a just an Ethernet port. Now, I know a lot of schools or a lot of laptops now, either the schools are already using the Ethernet port to connect to their network, or a lot of laptops nowadays just don't have them. We're getting to the wireless world. So we do supply a USB to Ethernet adapter. So simply just plug that in, and that'll act as your network card. And we'll go through how to set that up here in just a few moments. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff plugged in real quick, and we'll get started on the setup of the Teach Pendant.
JJ, I think this is a good opportunity as well to point out, I know we brought it up briefly in our previous webinar, but don't fret too much if you find yourself trying to scribble down notes or take a recording of this recording itself to make sure that you know just what to do when you get your FANUC Teach Pendants, or maybe you're exploring adding some FANUC robots to your program. Keep in mind, as JJ is himself and the rest of our service team is here to help you. if you need any assistance with any of that, anything from installation, or you have questions, maybe you have an area you've never seen before, don't forget that you have us in your back pocket, and make sure you give us a buzz if we can do anything for you.
Justin, thank you. And also keep in mind, just so you guys know, our service department does have how-to docs on, or how-to documents on a lot of this information we're giving you via video. So we're trying to make it very simple for you to connect, do things, all of that with us, whether it be in person, phone, remote support, or how-to documents and videos. So we're trying to make everything seamless for you. So
absolutely.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll see now we're all plugged in. All right, we're gonna actually power this guy on. Okay, and you can see on the screen starting to boot up here. And you're gonna notice the screen's gonna go blank. There'll be nothing on the screen. So we will show you how to get it into what we call ROBOGUIDE mode. Currently, the Teach Pendant is set up for an actual robot. So if you're to plug this into our actual robot currently, it would operate just like any other Teach Pendant would that's connected. Okay. So you can see here's our blank screen. The next step is to hold Shift I in position to get us into ROBOGUIDE mode. So I'm going to do that here real quick with the Teach Pendant down. Okay. And wait about 15 seconds. The screen will pop up.
And JJ, I have to intervene here as well. You can see this is a prime example too. If a student were to be hovering a mouse over a monitor and having to manually click with a mouse all of these keys, yes, again, it still gives them the layout. They can see visually where the keys are at, but not getting this feel, you can see the difference is night and day. So just another backslash of the benefit of actually introducing a physical pendant to the ROBOGUIDE usage on a PC.
That's right. All right, so now you'll see your screen focused here maybe. It's kind of tough to see on this video, but there's a screen popped up. We're going to click a button over here that says ROBOGUIDE mode. Okay. And our next screen, it's asking, how are we connecting the Teach Pendant? Are we connecting it to an actual controller, or are we connecting it to ROBOGUIDE? So I'm going to say connect to ROBOGUIDE, and then I'm going to end up setting an IP address in here. And that information we can also, I'll be going over here in a few minutes. But right now, we're going to leave it at that screen. I don't want to get into the IP address just yet, because we need to switch back over to our computer and get our computer set up. So let me share our screen here again. Okay. All right, so we're going to minimize this for now. And we're going to go down here. So what we need to do, we need to set up our network communication. If I go in here, go to Ethernet, and I usually go over here to change adapter settings. And on our particular PC, it's Ethernet 2 is the adapter, because we do have an Ethernet port on our computer. We're just not going to use that one. We'll go to Ethernet 2 here, right click, go to properties. I go to Internet Protocol version 4, say OK. I'm going to type in some IP addresses. Now note that a lot of you I know are limited to admin rights and things like that. So your IT department will need to help you with this if you are locked out. Try that again here. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually type in an IP address of 1.1.1.1. Okay. If I click my tab arrow, we're going to do 255, 255, and 0. That's going to be our subnet. And we're going to make the gateway the IP address of our Teach Pendant, which we haven't set yet, but we will. We're going to make that 1.1.1.2. All right, that's all we have to do. We're going to say OK. Say OK here. And we're going to exit. Okay, so now our computer is ready. All right, so let's get back over to our video here and get a nice big view of it here. All right, I'm going to pick this up. Okay. Again, I apologize. I know it's hard to see, but the next thing it's saying is IP address, subnet masking, gateway. So the same thing we just saw on the PC, we're going to do here, except we're going to reverse the top and the bottom. So now our IP address is going to be 1.1.1.1. 1.2. Okay, I'm using the keys on the Teach Pendant right here. Okay, I'm using my finger to touch the screen to move to the next box. 255.255.255.0, same subnet as what we did on our computer. And now our gateway is going to be the IP address of the computer, 1.1.1.1. Once that's done, there's a next button. We'll say next. And now our Teach Pendant is ready for RoboGuide. So let's go into RoboGuide now. And let's get that set up. So let's put back to our screen here. Okay. We're going to open up RoboGuide. And I'm going to get rid of our video for the time being. Okay. So within here, right now, the Teach Pendant over here, if I click on it, it brings up our on-screen Teach Pendant. Now, note, you cannot use the on-screen Teach Pendant and the physical Teach Pendant. So we need to disable this one. So to do that, we're going to go over here to Tools. We're going to go to Options. We're simply just going to check this box right here. We're going to say Use the physical iPendant connection exclusively. Okay, so now it's going to say, okay, virtual Teach Pendant, we're not going to use you. We have an actual physical Teach Pendant connected. We're going to use that one. Once you do that, say Apply. Okay, and then we do need to restart RoboGuide for that change to take effect. Okay, so I'm going to exit. I'm going to say Save Changes here. And then we're literally just going to come right back in. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and open up our cart. And once this comes up, what you're going to notice is the name of your PC is going to pop up in the Teach Pendant itself. So we'll switch back to video here in just a second so you can see that, hopefully. Okay. All right. So now, on here, in the screen, it does have the name of our PC, okay? And down here, there's just a section called VRC host name, okay? This is crucial here. We have to put the IP address of the computer in here. So in that case, it's the 1.1.1.1. What we've found is that the connection rate between the Teach Pendant and RoboGuide is 100% successful when we use the IP address. Sometimes they have you use the host name itself of the PC, but we found that the connection rate is not as successful. So we recommend using the IP address. So the 1.1.1.1 in there. Once we do that, we'll say next. And now it's going to say, please wait. We're connecting to your RoboGuide. And let's see if we can get this to focus in on the screen or not. Let's see if I go like this. Tough to see, you can kind of see it, but it is connected to our robot now. Okay, let's switch back to our screen. All right. So now our robot's connected to our Teach Pendant. So let's go back here. Okay, so I'm going to grab my Teach Pendant. All right, I'm going to make sure the E stopped off. I'm going to turn on my Teach Pendant using the switch up the top left-hand corner. I'm holding my dead man, hit reset, and now our robot should start moving. There we go, look at that. So we have now successfully connected our Teach Pendant to our virtual robot. Another thing I want to point out is if you notice, it's a very, very jerky robot. As we know in the real world, it's not this jerky. So what I want to do, show you a little trick we found, is if you go to Tools and go to Options. So the Teach Time refresh rate, what we found is if we put this all the way up to the top, 125, say Apply, okay. Now we're going to see our robot move just like it does in the real world. Now it's talking our robot, nice and smooth and fluid. Okay. So now we have our Teach Pendant connected, we have our virtual robot that acts just like our actual robot in the lab. Now our students can get the hands-on experience while going through the curriculum at home. or in the lab, or wherever it may be, that they don't have access to an actual robot because of class sizes or a worldwide pandemic or whatever the case may be. So another thing I want to show you, if you were to connect this Teach Pendant to the instructor's laptop or the instructor's computer, what I can do is actually mirror the screen on the Teach Pendant. So if the instructor is giving a lesson or a lecture of some sort and they're using the Teach Pendant and ROBOGUIDE, what we can do is if we go up here to Robot and go to Internet Explorer, okay, we're actually going to log in to what's called the web server. Bring this up here. Okay. What we can do is if we scroll down, we can actually say monitor iPendant echo. What this is going to do is actually echo the Teach Pendant screen on our projector or whatever it may be we're looking at. All right, so I'm going to click on that. Okay. If it does pop up for firewall setting, please say allow. And again, if you are locked down by your IT department, it may not work. You may have to get with them and help them unblock the firewall. All right, so here's what's going to happen. Right now, it's not going to work. This is a good thing because I need to show you the next step past this. Okay, so what's going to happen now is I need to tell Internet Explorer that this is a trusted site. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, go to Internet Options, go to Security, go to Trusted Sites, click on Sites. Okay, right here's our web address. Okay, I'm going to uncheck this because we cannot use HTTPS. It has to be HTTP. Say Add, Close, say OK, and now we're going to open it again. And here it is. Now we are mirroring our Teach Pendant screen. So what you'll notice is if I click on Menu, our menu pops up. If I click on, if I go down, let's say I click on I/O down here, change to our I/O screen. So now we can actually start going through and showing students the different screens as we're pressing buttons. So we can describe, you know, well, when I go to menu and I go down to file and I say file, I can show my files on my Teach Pendant. Or if I hit select, here's all my programs that are on the Teach Pendant, or things like that. So it's really, really helpful tool when you're teaching for students to actually see what's happening when buttons are being pressed during your lecture. So I'm going to get out of here real quick. There's one other thing I'd like to show you before we close out our day. All right. So, student creates a program, right? They are at home, and there's the you may or may not know, the curriculum has you creating shapes like a square, triangle, circle, things like that. And as you can see on our cart here, we have that shape pattern on here. Go like this for you. So the students can actually do all their programming right here offline, what we call it, via ROBOGUIDE. Once that program gets created, let's just say, so in our case, we don't really have any, but I do have a home program created, okay? What I can do, I can right-click on that, and I can just simply say save. I can save it as binary, the TP file, which is how the robot reads it. That's what all of our files are currently. Or I can save it as an LS. I'm going to go ahead and save it as a TP first. I'm going to save it to my thumb drive here. I'm going to say save. And I'm going to go back here. I'm going to save it as an LS. And what I'm going to do is show you real quick what the differences are. Okay. Let's save that. Okay. All right. So let's minimize this real quick. Let's bring up our thumb drive. All right. So we have our LS file here and our TP file. I'm going to open the TP file first to show this. It makes no sense, right? I mean, there's a bunch of garble we don't really understand. Can't really read it, but the good news is the robot knows how to read it. So that's the good news. All right, so let's open up our LS file. Let's say open with here, open it with Notepad. Okay. Now it makes sense, right? So now here's our program. Here's the date it was created, if it was modified, all of that. But it also tells me there's only one line of code in this program, and it's a joint move, position 1, 100% fine, and what it is taking this robot back to home. If we had 50 different points in there, what you would notice is there'd be P1 through P1 or P50. You know, all of your code will show up between the MN and the position here. And you can actually, student can actually go through and read it. So this is a good way for instructors if they want to do like sort of a test. What I've seen instructors do is create this, copy and paste just the code out of it, and then delete certain areas. Maybe delete the 100%, or maybe delete P1 and just have it like level 1, leave it blank or whatever, and have the students go through and hand write in different things as answers and then grade off of that. So that's another way to do another validation test. And do they know their programming? So now what I'm going to do is I want to say, okay, so now I pulled this out of here. Now you can put on your actual robot and go in and test it, make sure it works, run it, and make sure that the student kind of like a valid or validity point to say, okay, students have created this program. Did they use the correct I/O? Did they use the correct joint or linear move, the correct termination, all of that? Take it, put on a robot, and actually try to run it. Now let's say you want to pull a file off your robot and bring it over. What you can do that. All I have to do is go to Programs, Load Program. In this case, I'm going to select this program here, say Open, and now you'll see that program is right here. So that's how simple it is to take programs to and from the RoboGuide to the robot. If you have questions on how to get files out of the robot, we're not going to cover that in this webinar. However, there's instructions in your curriculum books, or again, we have a how-to document on how to do that. We'd be happy to share that with you. So Justin, did I miss anything today?
I mean, you know, when you talk about the many different things you can do within RoboGuide, we could sit here and have 20 or 30 webinars on everything we could do. But I do appreciate you sharing, you know, what you have today. I think hopefully for our listeners, you can see the benefit of actually introducing this physical teach pendant to your RoboGuide applications and the benefits that those offer your students as they continue their FANUC learning. So I just reiterate again, I know especially the lighting makes it somewhat difficult to be able to see verbatim what JJ's been working on. So I can't stress enough, you know, whether you're looking to build your program from the ground up, or maybe you're looking to already enhance your current program, we are here to help, whether it be JJ and the service team on their side with any technical questions, but as well as our consultants, you know, if you want to walk through curriculum, instructor training, or any of the plethora of resources that FANUC helps make available to you all. We're more than happy to do such. Again, you see our contact information there. Feel free to drop us a note, give us a call, what have you, and we'd love to talk with you. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in again today, and we are going to continue onward with our webinar series. So to give you a little snapshot of our next one, we're going to be staying in the FANUC family, but we are going to transition over to the CNC world. And I don't know, JJ, maybe we can have a special guest appearance from one of our FANUC CNC CERT employees who would be able to help us walk through some of the cool and exciting things going on in the CNC world. So whether it be you who's listening now, or if you know somebody maybe in your CNC program, or anybody who's interested in starting a CNC program, feel free to pass the word on that we'll be covering that next, and make sure you're on the lookout for that. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.